last night on NXT during Obafemi versus Trick Williams NXT title versus TNA title. The TNA roster ran in. They cleaned house. The NXT roster was running out as well. It was absolute chaos. And this is the first invasion angle we have seen in WWE from a company which isn't owned by WWE since 1997 when ECW did it, before they were eventually bought by WWE as well. Josh, I want to get your thoughts on all of this, right? Because I'm going to be honest here, I'm a little bit concerned this could backfire. Because is this leading to a Worlds Collide show? If so, that means one of these promotions are going to have to lose.
That is certainly the issue we're looking at right now. Where is this heading? When I watched this last night, it was, and I saw the rumors online about the invasion. In terms of the actual invasion, you said it best. It's chaos, and I love it. I think this is perfect. I think ever since fans found out about the NXT and TNA partnership, I think we knew this was going to happen at some point. Very happy that it's happened. We're seeing stars like Matt Cardona, the iconic Cedric Alexander, people that were previously WWE stars, and then we're also seeing Mike Santana, Frankie Kazarian, people that didn't exactly get to be in the WWE ring, but now they're getting that spotlight. So, look, obviously everyone's eyes are on, TNA coming up, waiting for the NXT stars to invade their ring and their venue and all that. But you are right. Where does this go? I mean, I don't know. Do we see a War Games match, NXT versus TNA? It doesn't completely add up to me. I really don't think we're getting a War Games match out of that. It's not big enough, in my opinion. Does it lead to a Worlds Collide show where, I don't know. I mean, I think the way they would have to go about this, it would be like a 2019 Survivor Series type where they did Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT, and it's like each win that a promotion gets like a point, and the goal is to win the whole pay-per-view. So maybe there'd be like, six, or there'd probably be like 7 matches. It'd be like 3-3 in the main event. And you're right. That's where you come into a roadblock. How are you in the creative room with the writer of TNA and the writer of NXT, and how do you pitch yourself to win over this other promotion? I don't know. I'm curious what you think, Ben. It's hard.
It's a really, really difficult one. And to your point as well, like if they did do a Worlds Collide show, which is what I believe this is leading to, that is my prediction at least, it almost kind of has to be. There's 2 ways you can go about it. One is you do 3 and 3, but then there's no real winner. So what issue does it solve?
Right.
And I'm going to be honest, I think that is maybe the most likely possibility here. But the
Yeah.
other possibility is you do a 5-match card. They like doing those. We know that. And you have TNA go 4-0. Sorry, have NXT go 4-0 heading into the main event. And the main event is Trick Williams versus Mike Santana for the TNA title. And in the main event, Mike Santana wins. So it's technically, or sorry, you could have TNA win. You could have TNA win 1 before that. So it can be 3-2. 3-1 heading into the main event, and that's when Mike Santana wins the title. So even though NXT would win the pay-per-view, the TNA would still get their world title back? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's the best idea, but then it's just kind of like, the whole TNA mid card loses, and then it's like, where do you go from here? You didn't really complete much. I mean, we know we have the big championship with us, but what does that really solve? And like thinking realistically, like would that really be like, okay, like we won the invasion? Like not really. I
No.
wouldn't be happy with that if that was my outcome.
What it would be is, I'll tell you exactly what it would be. It would hurt their mid card, but it would create a star in Mike Santana that WWE could steal when his contract expires. So even still, WWE are going to win.
This is one of those things where I think WWE is thinking to themselves like we're going to really take advantage of this partnership here, and they know they have the upper hand, they have the high ground here. I think they know that it's a business, it's how it works, and I think that's what's going to happen. Yeah, it's
Absolutely. I mean, the other question we need to talk about too is that I mentioned ECW 1997, the last invasion, which was from a non-WWE owned company. But of course, just a few years later, it would become WWE owned. So do you think we could see the same thing with TNA here?
100%. I think there's no doubt WWE is going to purchase TNA outright, completely, much like they did with ECW. Will it be a success? I don't think so. But will they do it? Absolutely. They have the money, they have the stars, they have the platform, they have everything. They're slowly becoming a monopoly. I mean, they I mean, they always have been really, but they're slowly acquiring ESPN and Peacock, and there's so many layers to this. I would be surprised if they just kind of let TNA be its own island. I think eventually they're going to buy.
Yeah, and that's kind of the worrying thing too, because I mean they don't need TNA, and also like they've got literally no use for TNA
They don't.
because they've already got a developmental system in the US NXT, and okay,
Mhm.
maybe you want something below NXT, well you've got Evolve,
I
you've got ID.
Right. I think if they are to buy TNA, it's less that they think they need it, and it's more a message to other competition saying, this is what happens. Like, we're the big sharks. We're going to eat you. Like, it's a message to AEW, I think.
Yeah, and of course, the official stance from TNA to DCX Warlord's point is TNA isn't for sale, but every company is almost always for sale for the right
Sure.
price, right?
Right
And
price.
usually, when a company is outright saying it's not for sale, usually that means they are because it
Right.
means they're waiting for offers. Usually, when they say, oh, maybe for the right offer we would, that means they're probably actually less likely to be for sale than if people just said they are. Podcast Drifter Podcast says disagree. If WWE acquires TNA and if they let them have the same management team, I think it will work. Well, how has that worked out for Evolve? It hasn't. I mean, the
Right.
company died. They tried to bring it back. It died. Now they brought it back once again. How did it work for the UK? It didn't work. We've seen it time and time again, right? There are
Mhm.
only so many fans interested in WWE products. And therefore, there are only so much products which WWE can put out there. The fans who are going out and watching stuff which isn't by WWE, it's not necessarily because they want more wrestling. A lot of the time, it's because they want to see wrestling which is more indie, more hip, less
Mhm.
corporate, less WWE. So I don't think the same logic really applies here.
Yeah.
DCX Warlord, Matt Cardona, and the Iconics, and Cedric Alexander on NXT again. Trick and Santana has already been set for Bound for Glory.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one, that is for sure. And Fernando says in 2 years TNA will be owned by WWE. I can't see it happening, and I'm afraid of it. But another point, Josh, because you brought it up,
Mhm.
WWE. I mean, legally, they are not a monopoly. Need to clarify that. But they are acting, maybe in some ways that some people may claim they are acting in such way.
Mhm.
But what really concerns me here is there are a lot of rumblings this week that Netflix are going to purchase Warner Brother Discovery. I think it was the Netflix chairman, was sitting next to the Warner Brothers Discovery guy at the fight the other day, right?
Mhm.
If that were to happen, if Netflix were to acquire WBD, at that point, I mean, there's no networks available for wrestling companies which aren't WWE because WWE would have at least some control over every single network they are on. So AEW and any other company, not even just AEW, are completely and utterly screwed.
Yeah. I think you said it best. Legally, they're not a monopoly. It's important we note that.
Yeah.
But they are a powerhouse business. They know where they are in the industry. They know where they stand. They always have stood on the top. And I think, even, obviously, I think a lot of people tip their hats to AEW. They have brought in the biggest competition they have ever had. But
Mm.
frankly put, I think there is just not enough hype, no matter how much hype they had, even in 2019. There is not enough hype to get past WWE. And it's because of that. It's because they're more than like AEW. I think of AEW as a very good wrestling company. I think of WWE as a very good business. And I think there's different
Mm.
layers to that. WWE is, of course, a good wrestling company, but they are a much better business than AEW. They have a lot more guys on the corporate side working, and I think they're just a step ahead in terms of that. And yeah, like Fernando Zayas just said in the comments, Netflix buying WBD could be a dark day for wrestling. Yeah, it could be for other competition. Yeah, for sure.
It would definitely be a very dark day for wrestling. There's absolutely no denying that. But Josh, the question I actually want to ask you as a counterpoint to that is how did you first get into wrestling, like as a child?
My dad. My dad.
Mm.
My dad watched wrestling as a kid. My brothers watched wrestling as a kid. And now I'm the youngest brother and I watch wrestling.
Did you go to any events or anything like that?
I went to every event that came to Philadelphia since I was 5 years old, maybe.
And would you say that the fact that you attended those events has made you more of a wrestling fan to this day?
100%. It's, yeah.
So my counterpoint is, can AEW anytime soon match WWE? Absolutely not. Not even close. But right now, and it is a tactic, Tony Khan's even admitted it this week, they are charging a lot less for their tickets, whereas WWE are increasing their ticket prices. And Mark Shapiro said the other day they are going to continue to rise them. So if families can no longer attend WWE events, but they can attend AEW events, who is to say in 20 years' time, because of childhood nostalgia, because they've been brought up on the product, there maybe will be a lot more AEW fans coming up through the ranks compared to WWE fans.
I think you're right. I think that's a great point. I think the thing with this is okay. Yeah, it's a complicated counterpoint because WWE is going to keep increasing their prices until
Mm,
they no longer sell out because they had a point where in 2018, 2019, you went to a Raw or SmackDown taping, they would have the upper sections covered and they were
yeah.
only selling lower bowls like AEW does. But they've just been getting consecutive sellouts nonstop, every city, every country. So they're going to keep raising the prices. And I think what they're doing is that I think they're going to keep raising the prices until they see a drop in attendance, like a significant drop. And then that's when they know they are at their price. And I do agree. I think it is overly expensive and I think it's
Mm.
ridiculous. But I do think that's what they're doing. I think they're just gouging their price to figure out where that line meets, where it's a lot of money. They're still bringing in a lot of money, but it's also enough for people to still attend. But
But
to
if
your
people are
point,
still attending now, surely the line's already been crossed for families.
100%, I agree. That is the issue, and that's where AEW is certainly leading. And you're right. I think if AEW is to be WWE, it is in that category, and it's in 15 and 20 years, like you said, because everybody right now, like us, our age, we are WWE fans because we grew up on it and we attended
Mm.
events and it was affordable. But the people that are, 5 and 6 years old and are entering that phase where they're going to start seeing these superhero like wrestlers on TV and AEW is in your town, it's affordable. You're 100% right. I think those people that are, 6 years old right now and 20 years, AEW, they could be bigger AEW fans than WWE.
There is a comment you which made me laugh just then, right? Podcast script to podcast, table and tax match, childhood core memory 2040.
that is
Look,
also the one thing
it's an
with
issue.
it's affordable, but is it family friendly? AEW.
No.
Really not.
That's the thing, because they need to be edgy to be different. But they
Yeah.
also, I do think, at this point need to, okay, as a business, take a step back from some of the blood, essentially. Not
Mhm.
getting rid of it, but just taking a step back. And the reason for that being that, well, you don't want to give people, mental scars or anything like that, really, do
Right.
you? I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, like you said earlier, you were talking about how in order to be competition, you have to change it up. People, that's why WWE UK and Evolve failed because of the same type of wrestling that Raw and SmackDown is. AEW changed up the style of wrestling. They made it different. But now the question is, do they have to make a sacrifice in order to go ahead? Do you sacrifice the fans that love AEW now for the hardcore style they are? And make it more family friendly for the future? Or do you keep it with your hardcore fans? Like Tony Khan says, he loves his fans, he always listens.
You love the
And
sickos, yeah.
do you take a risk? Yeah, I don't know.
I think you can do both, though. I think you can just ever so slightly take a step back.
Right,
No more thumbtacks in mouths.
right.
No bleeding buckets. But still
Mm.
doing these hardcore stunts, right? Because as a kid, WrestleMania 25, one of my first memories of professional wrestling, Jeff Hardy table on fire. That was gruesome. And as a 6-year-old, I loved that. It helped me get
Hmm.
into wrestling. So I think you can still do some of this violence. I just don't think you
I
need
agree.
to be eating thumbtacks and bleeding out buckets, really.
I'm
So I
with
think
it.
there's
Yeah,
a line they can
yeah.
really find with it.